You see a doctor, and then you allow the doctor to see what we.
We hear from family of father accused of torturing his own son to seek psychiatric help for him as he pleads not guilty to charges of assault and causing harm. We'll bring you details from the court today.
Also here on Newsnight, as various political parties gear up for the election season in the next few weeks, Bako Central MP speaks about the qualities that a possible running mate to John Mahama must have.
It is the person who gets a certain section of the country to shift, to swing to your side, that gets a higher chance. The economy is going to be a major issue and there will be debate. You want a running mate who is able to assist.
And in business, health professionals without tax identification numbers could have their reliefs delayed.
And later on flip side, the health minister's tips on staying safe from COVID-19. We'll hear from him shortly here on Newsnight. And you want to join us with your thoughts and comments via WhatsApp is 0244 340 437.
My name is Ernest Manu.
I am Emefa Apawu.
Now, the government of Ghana wants to reopen the economy of the country despite the rising cases of the novel coronavirus. Ghana's case count now stands at 5,530 with 24 deaths. But the health minister, Apawu and Ernest, says the citizenry must learn to live with the virus. Government has already begun engaging various identifiable groups, including schools, churches, to discuss how to ease the COVID-19 restrictions. Joseph Akable was at a news conference called by government today, and here's his report.
The new cases confirmed that added to what we reported 122, with the distributions in Greater Accra 57, Ashanti Region 62, Central Region 2, and Western North 1.
With infections rising by the day, government wants Ghanaians to stick to safety protocols. Health Minister Apawu and Ernest says the virus is here to stay.
Coronavirus has come to live with us. It will have nowhere to go and we'll have to live with it. There are several diseases that we live with. Malaria has been with us for how long now? HIV/AIDS came. We have never been able to take it off. We still live with it. We are now seeing community spread, but we are not dying. Our death rate is quite low. That does not mean that we should allow ourselves to be infected with the disease.
Information Minister Kojo Ponkroma says the presidency is holding meetings to identifiable groups on life after the restrictions.
Government envisages that in the coming weeks, it will need to outline a gradual plan for a post-restrictions era. Pursuant to this, the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has commenced engagement with various stakeholders on safety measures that can allow an easing of the restrictions without compromising the health of the population.
The Ghana Tourism Authority has been in the news since it announced that drinking spots could reopen. The Tourism Ministry overturned that directive. Minister Barbara Otinjesi has been offering this explanation.
An inadvertent indication of drinking bars being exempt in the EI 64. When you look at clause 1 of the EI, which lists activities that are banned, it includes nightclubs and drinking bars. But when you get to the clause where they indicate the exemptions, all the activities that are listed under exemptions are not captured under clause 1, imposition of restrictions. So we have given it a purposive interpretation to indicate that the inclusion of drinking bars in clause 4 under exemptions was inadvertent on the part of the draftsman, and therefore, right from the beginning of application of the ban on public gatherings, drinking bars as well as nightclubs were banned from operating. The status quo remains. Drinking bars, nightclubs are not open.
Health Minister Apawu Manu, meanwhile, says the police will begin arresting persons who refuse to wear masks.
And I believe soon you will see the police arresting some of us who are becoming too recalcitrant. And if you are jailed for 3 months for not wearing a mask in public, probably we'll take a cue from that.
And that's Joseph Akable's report. Let's go to the phone lines now for some analysis on this. And we've been joined by Dr. Michael Owusu. He is a virologist at the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research. Doc, thank you very much for your time here on Newsnight. Now, looking at how the virus has been spreading and the behavior of the disease, is this a conclusion that you accept?
Good evening to you and then to your listeners. I did not hear the interview by the Honorable Minister, but I understand that you wanted to find out whether the virus will live with us for quite a long time. I hope I'm right on that, right?
That is so.
Yeah, so this is to be expected because if you know the nature of these viruses, it moves from epidemic in countries and then it goes on to pandemic and then becomes endemic. So, and the influenza is an example. I mean, we had a huge outbreak in 1918. Recently, we had a 2009 pandemic influenza strain that caused a lot of disease around the world. In Ghana, some people had this vaccines given to who had influenza A. Every year, people get influenza A in Ghana, including the pandemic strain of influenza, which has almost become like a seasonal virus. So it is to be expected that once this virus runs through about 60 to 70% of the population, the rest of the people will gain what we call a herd natural immunity, and therefore will live normally as part of their life. What we don't know is how long people can be immune to this virus. And we understand that the previous strain, which is the SARS coronavirus, the people can be immune to this for 2 years. So you will expect that there will be reinfection every 3 years. So what we are hoping is that we have a vaccine comes in every 2 years. People will have to vaccinate and they become immune to this strain so that we don't get recurrence of infections like the other flu viruses that we did. So yes, we will live with that for some time, and we have to brace ourselves for this and ensure that we put in the mechanisms so we don't have this spreading to the vulnerable population.
So if we have to live with this, what are some of the things that we have to adapt immediately and those that we have to gradually get accustomed to?
So if this lives with us for some time, we add up to close to 15 family of viruses that cause respiratory disease every year. So in the U.S., for instance, every year about 380 to 700,000 people get sick from these flu viruses, and 34,000 die. So what you will expect to do is that you have the testing devices available at the hospital facilities to ensure that once people get these viruses, you can test them and then be able to manage them well. And what we don't know about this new virus is how it will play out, especially with hypertensive patients and those with cardiovascular illness. Because of that, you can't tell the mortality, even if it lives with us for some time. So we have to still take the good precautions, ensure that we limit spread, especially to the vulnerable population. And we should begin to look at these practices becoming a part of our norm. I mean, washing your hands, social distancing, this should become part of our culture until we get a vaccine. If a vaccine comes in, then you may not want to do some of this because you are already immune. But then until we get a vaccine, putting on mask, washing your hands, social distancing, and making this a part and a parcel of our life is what we have to do for some time until we get a good news of a vaccine or a cure that could help us live our normal life as human beings.
But I'm curious, Doc, are we ready to live with COVID-19 as we are being told to?
Well, we have no choice. We have to live with it because until we get a vaccine, we cannot relax the precautionary measures. If we are lucky and a vaccine comes within the year and becomes available to everyone in the globe, everybody needs the vaccine, then at least we will all become immune. And therefore, if people decide not to adhere to precautions, they are immune to the virus. But until then, we cannot tell. Even if the vaccine does not come in the next 2 years, it is possible our immune system could wane, and therefore we still will come back to this cycle of that the virus spreading and hitting vulnerable populations and coming down. So I think that we have no choice. We just have to make sure that this becomes a parcel of our lives and we live with it. And the whole focus must be to protect the vulnerable. That should be the focus. If left to the healthy people, it is fine. But then with the older generations and the people who have hypertension and cardiovascular illness, everything we do must be to make sure that those populations are protected so that we don't expose them to much hazard or much disease as we wait for vaccines or cure to come in and save all of us from.
Doc, thank you very much for your time here on Newsnight. And Dr. Michael Osu is a virologist with the KCCR. But Emefa, you know that the other angle to this is the economy. It is a key factor. Many governments across the world are considering as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Let's bring in a development economist, Dr. Patrick Isumin, and he's done a lot of research into health. Dr. Isumin, thank you for your time here on Newsnight. Now, the impact. Let's first look at the impact of easing up restrictions on the economy.
Good evening, and good evening to your listeners, and thanks for having me. So I think we've all been told about the impact of the COVID-19, and we all know that the overall impact will depend on how early the restrictions are removed and how quickly life can get back to normal. I think at the moment we know that the lockdown has been eased, but certain sectors are still tightly under wraps. In particular, if you look at the tourism sector, the hospitality industries, and the hotels and others. So if those restrictions are eased, if additional restrictions are eased, then obviously we are thinking about allowing such services like weddings, funerals, and all those connected to those services. I'm not sure that the ban on flights coming in is going to be lifted anytime soon. So my understanding of this is going to be a gradual easing while we still tighten restrictions. So in essence, easing some of these restrictions will bring some boost, but we are certainly not out of the woods yet when it comes to the overall economic impact, because even this easing will still, having these face masks, having the social distancing will still, and also banning closing our borders still have some severe economic impact.
I want us to look at easing the restrictions within the context of living with the virus, the effect, adverse or otherwise.
Well, I think it's so if you compare the effect with where we have been, where we were without any virus, then obviously it is still going to represent a significant negative impact on our GDP. But if you look at today, the restrictions as we have them today, and some of them are removed, obviously means that some economic activities that are currently negatively affected will now be allowed to come on stream, and therefore that's going to ease some of the burden. But it's nowhere near returning the economy back to full stream as we had it before. So easing some restrictions from here on is going to allow some additional economic activity to come on board, and is going to lessen some of the economic impact of the COVID-19.
Now, you have done a lot of research in the health sector, and you are a development economist as well. What are some of the adjustments we need to make in our health systems or the health sector in order to be able to contain this effectively?
I think at the moment we've seen a lot of things coming on board. We've seen that there's been increased production of PPEs to boost the medical supplies. We've also seen additional measures to ensure that we are creating enough hospital beds that will make us ready should the cases continue to rise. I think what from the health point of view, I think what we need to do is to continue taking an overall systems approach so that even beyond this COVID-19, we get ready for the next outbreak. And that will mean that we strengthen several aspects of the health system. So the last time we heard that there's been announcement about construction of additional facilities. And I have said in the past that construction of those facilities is just one first step. We need to ensure that we have the health personnel. And outside of COVID-19, we also need to ensure that we are not going to have those shortages in regular supplies of equipment and logistics to our health facilities. But outside of the health system, I think one other thing that we probably shouldn't lose sight of is that there could be a potential food crisis when the COVID-19 is over. Because, even though we are told that because of planting for food and jobs, our food production has gone up, we still know we import significant quantities of food. And because production and supply chains remain disrupted around the world, we are not going to get back the same quantity of food import that we get, even when the COVID is over. It's going to take a while. So I think it's important that we also try, at the moment, start looking at that side so that whatever additional measures we need to put in place to ensure that our food production really come up to stream so that in the immediate term, when we are out of the COVID-19, we won't have the food shortages and the rising food prices.
Mm.
We're grateful you could join us, and that's Dr. Patrick Isumi. He's a development economist with the University of Ghana.
Well, Ernest, I should say, it is imagined that no frontline worker has benefited from the allowances since it was announced last month. This came up at a news conference after some staff of Noguchi yesterday confronted management demanding answers. Listen to the Health Minister, Apawu and Ernest, speak on the matter.
This is an unfortunate situation. It looks like some wrong information had got into Noguchi. So far, this extra allowance the President announced to be paid to frontline workers has not been paid to anybody yet. All the heads of the service providers, the Christian Health Association, Ghana Health Service, the quasi-government institutions, the teaching hospitals, all their CEOs have signed an arrangement and said to the minister that we should hesitate a little bit for them to continue to dialogue with their own staff, the nurses and the doctors, and until they come out with an agreed sort of arrangement with their workers, we should not begin to work on the 50% allowance that is supposed to go to anybody. Noguchi cannot be left behind. We are adding the clinical academic consultants, the university lecturers who practice medicine in the teaching hospitals. They are all part of it, including some veterinary people who are even doing testing. But we haven't paid to anybody. And then last night it came out that Noguchi people are complaining that we have paid the allowances to people and we have left them behind. This cannot be true. You haven't done anything. And I want to assure Noguchi staff that we will never leave them behind.
And that's the Health Minister, Apawu and Ernest. Let's take you to the Ashanti region now, where the health officials have been dispatched from Accra to hold meetings there with the local people on how to deal with the rising cases of COVID-19 in the town of Obuasi. And if you know that in the Ashanti region, it is more or less the epicenter. Yeah. That's right, holding about 80% of the cases. Ohemin Terry is our man on the ground, and he joins us on the line. Ohemin, you have been with the team. What's the latest from where you are?
Thank you. The Director General, Dr. Patrick Abuaje, is leading the team here in Obuasi. And according to him, the team is here first to assess the Obuasi situation and draw appropriate response. He acknowledged the fact that the medical team, the COVID-19 task force in Obuasi, has already been doing something that he describes as positive. So the team from Accra is here to complement what they have been doing. And he says they have met the two chief executives, the medical staff, opinion leaders, and now they have finished with a plan where they can work according to this plan to bring the Obuasi situation under control. And from the information I picked from him, it means the team will be here for some time before they will leave. As we speak, the Ashanti region has already contributed 20 medical personnel to complement the Obuasi team. And then beyond this, the two adjoining districts, Adanse, Asokwa, and Adanse North, are also contributing medical personnel to help with the contact tracing. This is to quicken the process so that they will be able to reach all people who probably have come into contact with positive COVID-19 cases as quick as possible.
But what's the talk among residents, though?
Honestly, I must say residents seems not to be aware of today's meeting involving the Director General of Ghana Health Service and the Director in charge of surveillance, Dr. Franklin Esiedu-Bequin. For them, their thought is to say to it that Obuasi will be able to overcome COVID-19. But I must say, beyond the meeting here, the two municipal assemblies have been doing enough. For instance, they have been enforcing the no mask, no entry in Obuasi. There are entry points in Obuasi. For instance, when you are traveling from Kumasi to Obuasi, the COVID-19 task force is stationed at the Dunkwa Junction to ensure that everybody, if you are a passenger and you are in the bus, you wear your nose mask, where your temperatures will also be taken. And then those from Dunkwa or the central region into Obuasi will also have to go through a similar process. So they have tightened what I would call protocols enforcement here. And today, too, the Obuasi Central Market was open for the very first time 1 week after its closure. Instead of allowing more traders into the market, the assembly allowed only 500 traders. So the traders have been grouped. Today, those with the blue card are the ones who were allowed to patronize the market. Tomorrow, another set of traders will also come in that regard.
That's my colleague Ohiming Teria there reporting from Obuasi.
And Emefa, the minority in Parliament has described as ad hoc and reactionary government's plan to reopen the economy and prepare Ghanaians for life beyond COVID-19. Ranking member on Parliament's Health Committee, Kwabena Minta Kando, says the coronavirus situation is getting out of hand and not under control as government is claiming. He criticizes government for not managing the virus but only involved in information management.
I think that the issues are getting out of hand and we must sit up and deal with the issues because, let me cite this example. When you move to the western north, where I come from, in a matter of 2 weeks, we recorded not less than 56 cases and they started with one. And this is one district out of 9 districts. What it tells you is that there could be other people in the other part of the region who are not showing symptoms but could be carrying the virus. And you see, our measures should not be reactionary, should not be ad hoc. We must move ahead of the virus. That is the only time we can combat it. When it was being transported into the country or being imported into the country, we mentioned all these things. Let's close our borders. Let's do this, so that we can move ahead. Government didn't listen. Now we have gotten to where we are. We do not want to go back. But going forward, do A, B, C. Let's move to the regions that have not recorded cases and do testing. You say you have to target those regions before you move there. With the greatest deal of respect, what do you make out of this? I mean, they are taking us for granted. All they do is that instead of managing the virus, they are managing information. They are more interested in the information that goes out than managing the virus. And for Christ's sake, the information cannot kill, but the virus can kill.
And that's the minority spokesperson on health in Parliament, Kwabena Minta Akando. There's some good news in all of this. The World Health Organization has elevated the regulatory status of Ghana's Food and Drugs Authority to level 3, and that's the second highest in the 4-tiered classification. Ghana becomes the second country in Africa after Tanzania to attain this level. The WHO country director, Dr. Nima Kimambo, announced the elevation at a brief ceremony in Accra today, where letters confirming the reclassification were presented to the FDA through the Health Ministry.
There are 4 levels of regulatory system maturity, starting from level 1, where only some elements of regulation exist, and up to 4 corresponding to the advanced regulatory system. The level 3 indicates that the system is well functioning and integrates all required elements to guarantee its stable performance. Benchmarking of medicine's regulatory system is part of the WHO program for regulatory system strengthening. It identifies strengths as well as areas for improvement, after which a plan that is called an institutional development plan is developed, building on strengths and addressing areas for improvement. Evaluations of Ghana Food and Drugs Authority, the national regulatory body for medicines, was carried out starting in 2014, 2015, and later in 2019 using the WHO Global Benchmarking Tool. WHO, after doing this exercise, provides technical support in the implementation of the institutional development plan, followed by continuing monitoring progress and outcome as well as impact. So following these procedures, Ghana becomes the second country in the WHO African region to attain regulatory system maturity level 3, the second highest in the 4-tier WHO classification of national medicines regulatory systems.
So that's the WHO Country Director, Dr. Nima Kimambo. The Chief Executive of the FDA, Delise Mimi Dako, said the FDA has already set its sights on attaining level 4 regulatory status.
Ghana FDA has over the years strived to attain the highest quality standards by making positive changes to improve our regulatory systems and services. And so we agreed that benchmarking against ourselves was not what we wanted to do, but we wanted to be benchmarked against the world, not just Africa, but the world. And that was only to ensure that as an agency, we are comparable to the most effective and the best regulators in the whole world. Having a strong and effective regulatory system plays an important role in assuring the quality, safety, and efficacy of medicines and all medical products in any jurisdiction, not just Ghana. So why should the FDA be different? And so we benchmarked with the best of the best, and we have done and made top marks today. This was not just a one-day achievement, and it will not be a one-day result. We are going to ensure that we take the benchmarking from today until the rest of the time. This benchmarking will also better equip the FDA to play its key role in promoting development of both the local industry, both orthodox and traditional medicine industry.
That's the Chief Executive of the FDA, Delise Mimi Dako. Some good news there, Emefa.
Yeah, indeed. Now, times of crisis are also the times for fake news and propaganda. The more ridiculous the claim, the more traction it gains on social media. Now, on today's episode of Joy News' series titled Combating Fake News, we'll bring you the story of a 24-year-old who has been remanded pending trial for disseminating fake news on social media and inciting the public to commit crime. There's more in the following report by Nicholas Ekoyamware to you.
Corona is not killing Ghanaians, and it will not kill any Ghanaian. Why? Because they be amunum soboro.
That's 24-year-old Bless Amedebe making claims in a recorded video of himself inciting the public to defy the stay-home presidential directive aimed at halting the spread of coronavirus in Ghana. In the said video, which was made during Ghana's 3-week lockdown period, Bless claimed the directive to stay at home was a hoax and he planned to install 5G cables in the affected areas. Those 5G cables, he claimed, were meant to kill Ghanaians. Bless Amedebe was also seen in the video inciting the public to rise up against national authority. Well, whilst many feel invincible on social media, Bless was struck down by the national security operatives who came across the video. He was arrested on Tuesday, charged with false communication and assault on public officer contrary to Electronic Communications and Criminal and Other Offences Act. He was put before the Accra Circuit Court 4 and remanded. Bless Amedebe has been explaining his actions after his remand. He claims the video was meant for a skit on his personal YouTube channel but went viral.
The motive behind the video actually because that is not even the video I was coming to do, but that is the acting part of it.
The Mamobi-based private security guard says he regrets his action and has an advice for people who spread fake news and misinformation, especially in these times of global health crisis.
But I did a mistake. That's why the whole editing was not out before the video itself is going. That's my mistake. That was a silly thing I did, and I regret it so much.
The claims Bless make in this video are untrue. Ghana Health Service statistics show coronavirus has killed 24 Ghanaians. It has been scientifically proven that 5,408 have been infected so far.
And that's our project on fake news together with the Media Foundation for West Africa. You're still listening to Newsnight here on Joy 99.7 FM with me, Emefa Apawu and Ernest Manu.
Yes, I'm here. And it's now time for business, and Georgia is
here. So it was Emefa and Evans. Now it's Kojo Menu and Emefa Apawu.
What do you have in business, George?
Well, I have something about health, because you're hearing that health professionals and frontline workers who don't have the personal, that is the tax identification number, could have their benefits delayed, because you have to get that before it could fast track those benefits for you. And PPEs, groceries, top list of items being purchased on local online, local online giant Jumia. I'll be getting you more details in these times of lockdown. What were people purchasing through this e-commerce platform? The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials. And First National Bank, we are the bank that understands your business. First National Bank, how can we help you? And it has been 25 years of joy and supporting those budding entrepreneurs out there.
Momo it. When you tire for the long queue in the supermarket, just Momo it. And when you really want that beautiful new blouse too, just Momo it. And when you won't get that thing, when you will get fresh to impress, you know who, just Momo it. And when you need to pay that your utility bill and domestic staff set, just Momo it. And when you want send love to the family for back home, just Momo it. So many ways there. When you go use your MTN Momo wallet or make payments with scan to pay. When you go use the QR code, or you go use the merchant ID or on bank POS terminal. You go also transfer money between mobile money wallet and bank account, all on MTN Momo. Enjoy real convenience in all your financial transactions and live life the brighter way with MTN Momo. We are good together. Just Momo it. We're there for you everywhere you go.
Mr. Bar has big dreams for his business, Bar & Co. Limited, and his family, making them a reality man to long drives and queues. He's lost precious time struggling to pay his suppliers in China, Turkey, India, and other parts of the world. With the First National Bank global payment via our online banking enterprise, he now pays for all that in the convenience of his home or office, giving him time to focus on family and growing his business. Use our online banking enterprise to access Forex when you need it. It takes a bank that does more to help your family. So who's helping yours? First National Bank. How can we help you?
We give you nothing but the best. We stay above the rest. More quality, more affordability. Kingdom Books and Stationery. Everybody's going to the one and only shop. With customer satisfaction is a guarantee. Kingdom Books and Stationery.
Oh yes, with our 30 days credit facility with no interest charge, free delivery services, and our free consultation on setting up your office, Kingdom Books and Stationery is unmatched in our delivery of quality and affordable office essentials, equipment, and furniture.
Experience world-class customer service in all our branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Cape Coast, and Takoradi.
Call us on 0302-764-101
or visit our website at www.kingdomgh.com.
Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all office essentials and stationery. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, healthcare professionals and frontline personnel without tax identification number could have their benefits and reliefs delayed. Now, that's according to the Acting Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Reverend Amisha Apawu. Government recently announced several reliefs for frontline healthcare workers, and is expected, it's supposed to take effect from April this year. Reverend Apawu actually, however, explains that there is a window of opportunity for this to be quickly corrected. He's been speaking ahead of PMS Business Edition of PM Express tonight, where he's talking about revenue mobilization challenges in the midst of COVID-19.
All these 5 categories of health workers or employees in the health sector qualify under this. But as I said, it goes through the Ministry of Health and then the Controller General, who would then have to make sure that the payrolls are prepared appropriately. We also require them to complete the normal forms which their employers will normally have completed for them as far as the submission of their PAYE filing to the sector. And so once these are done, you automatically will get your incentives as announced by His Excellency the President Nana Akufo-Addo to the nation.
So if I get my pay slip, these things have been done already, or how does it get to you for you to clear it and then I start benefiting as a person?
I think, as I mentioned, if your employer has done the payroll, passes you through it, then automatically by the time you get your salary, then these incentive will have already been applied, and therefore you don't expect that you will pay the tax. So basically, that is the way it's going to work. But some of the things that we have put in place, we have to use this opportunity also to make sure that people have the TIN numbers. There are still some employees who don't have TIN numbers.
What will happen to them? Because per the directive, they're supposed to benefit. So
we'll encourage them. In fact, we insist that you should just make sure you have a TIN, because currently we have also put together a system that allows you to be able to get the TIN number and in a very short time.
There's also good news for anyone or business that has donated towards this COVID-19 fight.
I've come out with various measures to cushion the taxpayer, measures to protect our staff even as they try to go about their duty, measures to ensure that the level of impact is mitigated to some extent so that the revenue decline that may happen in these times might not be as significant as it ought to be, to measures to identify some areas that may be beneficiaries of the COVID-19 situation, and to see how they can also contribute their quota, even to help the others who are not that fortunate. For most of these incentives, we have already published them. They've also gone through Parliament, and therefore, as soon as every legal requirement is completed, in terms of the process, we have the complete process in place to ensure that people can benefit from it. So, for example, if we are talking about getting the waiver for penalties, if you come today and you pay your your taxes that are due completely today, you will still get the waiver. And there are a lot of opportunities for people. So out there, any taxpayer who has maybe some delayed payments and therefore has a penalty of say 100% or 200%, depending upon the kind of penalty that it is, if he comes in today and settles all the principal payments, we can waive all the penalties.
And that's the Acting Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Reverend Amisha Apawu. He's on PM Express tonight, where he's going to talk about COVID-19 and revenue mobilization. You're dealing with the shortfalls and the reliefs. Now, personal protective equipment and groceries, these are the items that are topping the list for e-commerce giant Jumia in terms of demand from the public. Alberta BC has been engaging officials of this firm, and she has the rest of the story.
According to Bloomberg, e-commerce companies have emerged as favorites during the coronavirus pandemic. Demands for some category of products have received high patronage online in recent times. According to the Chief Executive Officer of Jumia Ghana, Dinah Owusu-Chireko, on the scale of 1 to 10, purchase of products such as groceries and personal protective equipment have received major patronage.
We've seen interest peaks in certain categories, so hygiene, disinfectants,
We've also seen an increase in things like masks and gloves and sanitizers, right? So those categories, we can sure say that there's a peaked interest in those. I would say on those particular categories that I mentioned, I would say the interest is quite high, right? So I would give it sort of like a 9 or 10 in terms of their buying habits.
She added, although the outbreak of this pandemic has affected imports of goods generally, but the level of delay is declining. She said customers have come to understand the situation and are coping with the current situation.
The goods that we have coming from international, coming from abroad, all the delays have actually regulated, so we're now in good timeline. The sellers essentially list on Jumia what they have at the moment in their warehouses or in their offices. All delays have started stabilizing.
Alberta BCU reported for Joy Business.
Other economic stories, and economist Professor Peter Cote is warning that delays in fast-tracking the release for small businesses and industries could deepen the projected recession for this economy. The World Bank has actually projected that the country or the economy could go into a recession due to the coronavirus. Now, it's saying that these things or these measures that government has announced should actually be put in place now to save the situation.
Our financial sector will certainly be hit. There will be loan repayment issues. Economic growth was also decline. In fact, we are likely to witness a recession, and therefore it is inevitable. Recession is inevitable, and it is important to provide support to businesses so that we minimize the effects of the pandemic.
And that's economist Professor Peter Cote. And that's all for Business on Newsnight. Back to you, Emefa and Kojo Manu.
Thank you very much, George, for bringing us business. And I think you like to call me Kojo Manu.
Ernest, I should add the Ernest, right?
Whichever way, I'm okay.
Okay.
You're still listening to Newsnight here on Joy 99.7, and we'll get into some of your messages. But still to come, we'll hear the advice of the Health Minister on COVID-19.
So those of us who come out just to a chat, to sit somewhere and do kokosa, why can't we stay at home?
Some of you are doing kokosa.
So if you have the mask, then God will be comfortable with you because you are not going to drink.
There is no fear. That is why we've been drinking all the year.
That's coming up shortly.
Later on flip side.
Let's take some of your messages at this point, though.
And this one from Stephen in Dokori says the government of Ghana is winning the fight against information of COVID-19, but gradually failing with the fight against the virus. They should set up, or the citizens will soon realize it. That's Stephen from Kumasi.
So he sent another one. Okay, so this one from Kwekunti says the health minister's frustration is mainly because as he and others urge us to do more because all is not well. Dr. Nsian Sari and Co say all is well. Confusing. Okay, so the surveillance division has been sidelined until now that things are getting out of hands.
This one from North K, BB says that we need the RDTs now because things are getting out of hand. BB, thank you for your message. And another one from Kofi Seidu in Konongo says it is quite worrying for the government to start thinking of easing restrictions by saying that COVID-19 has come to stay with us, when in fact our health system is so weak to contain an overwhelming case or situation.
So we have this one from Latif Tijani from Pengbe. He says, I think that the government should not hasten the decision of lifting the restrictions until we begin to see a drastic drop in the number of case recorded. Otherwise, we would land ourselves in big trouble. This is Newsnight, and of course, it's your election headquarters.
And of course, this is your election headquarters. Now, Joy News checks reveal that the various political parties are holding themselves in readiness for the campaign season ahead of the election 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic has adversely affected the parties as they have been compelled to put on hold their activities. We know that the NPP, the governing NPP, they've not had their primaries as far as the some constituencies. They've done those for the orphan constituencies. The situation even with CPP is worse. Yesterday I heard Kwabena Bonfe on Asempa FM talking about the fact that even the election of national officers has been hit because there's a case at the court. So they are yet to move to flag bearer, running mate, and what have you. But Emefa, one thing that people are looking forward to is the announcement of who partners John Mahama for this election as running mate. And MP for Boko Central, Mahama Yariga, has been speaking about the qualities of a possible running mate to John Mahama and what that person must have. There's an interview from PM Express with Evans Spencer.
Never dreamt of being the running mate.
Because John Mahama comes from
the north. John Mahama, because he's from the north. And we can't have two Northerners on
so
the
have
same
you
ticket.
dreamt
I'm not saying it is impossible to have two Northerners on the same ticket, but I don't think that
by tradition,
politically, yes, it will be a wise thing to offer the country that ticket.
But you will definitely not turn it down if he decides to go that way.
I will. Because
you will turn it down?
Because I will see him clearly losing the election with me as his running mate. so I really love him and want him to win, and he comes nominating me, and I'm 100% convinced that people won't accept the idea that I and my elder brother will all be presidential candidate and running mate, and so I have to advise him that, look, this is a crazy idea. You shouldn't even attempt it.
So your argument almost in that logic, if you had a flag bearer from the south, then you wouldn't have a problem accepting it and considering yourself as a possible worthy running mate.
Again, it would depend on what that person should be looking for in a running mate.
That's a good point. What should John Mahama look for in the person he chooses?
Exactly. That's the question we should be asking ourselves.
I'm asking you.
We as a party, of course, we've been discussing it. I mean, knowing.
Do you have a personal view? What the ideal set of qualifications should be for the NDC in this time?
Well, I mean, there are so many factors that you look at. There is the historical voting alignments of the different parts of the country. Now, you take some regions of the country, and no matter who you present to them as a candidate from whichever ethnic group, they tend to vote in a certain way. Not because they are not intelligent, they are not smart, but they have their value systems, and they think that the two parties reflect those different value systems, and so they tend to own the parties and vote along those lines. So you know that the Volta region, you know that significant sections of the northern part of the country will support the NDC historically. You know that Ashanti, Eastern, significant portions of Western, and etc. will strongly support the NPP. Okay. Now, you want to choose a running mate, and so you have to figure out, in this game, where can I get to shift? Because it is the person who gets a certain section of the country to shift, to swing to your side, that gets a higher chance of winning. So, question is, where can you get a movement? You can get a movement in Greater Accra, because Greater Accra, it has the potential to move this way or that way, depending on the quality of the person.
True.
On the quality of the person.
And you never win a president without Greater Accra.
Without Greater Accra. Central can shift depending on the quality of the person. Okay? I don't know the extent to which gender
will play
is
a role.
An issue in our politics or can play a role.
At least
whether if you have a woman as a running mate, whether it can have a bearing on the outcome.
Because we haven't had the history, there's no history to,
We haven't tried it. There's nothing wrong with trying it, but we haven't tried it to see how people will react to that idea. So that's one factor you need to look at in your calculations. We also have had this tradition of having vice presidents, to be seen to be anchoring the economic policy and financial policy management of the country. Like it or not, that has become
because he may become the chairman of the economic
management team and etc. John was an exceptional vice president. He wasn't really, a finance person. But many people forgot that was also because Professor Mills was a tax commissioner and really had a handle on financial issues. People didn't really know. They just thought he was a law professor. He was a tax commissioner for so many years, and sitting there, he really had a very appreciable, knowledge of financial issues. And John came in as a non-finance person to help. So that is a factor that people are looking at because you are facing an opponent who will tout the financial, quote and unquote prowess until I don't know, started punching holes into his pro.
And that is going to be significant again
so
in
that's
election
going to
year,
be
where the economy again is going to be...
the economy is going to be a major issue, and there will be debate, and you want somebody, a running mate, who is able to assist in
especially in the post-COVID Ghana, where the economy is going
where the economy is the issue.
It's going to be on
its knees.
Yeah.
Issue.
Yeah.
Exactly. The economy is going to be the issue.
Yeah.
The finances of the country will be the issue.
Professor Boche comes to mind.
One of those who will come to mind, because NDC has so many other people.
But in terms of those who have been talked about, you're astute, you've done this game for a while. In terms of the speculation that is going on there, in terms of the short list of those who can, his name, he appears to be the one with the most economic astuteness, if that is a key priority.
Economic astuteness, yes. He clearly been a finance minister for so many years.
Longer serving
finance minister. Yes, so he has that profile. He fits that profile. But there are others. There are others who I believe also have some finance background that could be very helpful in the NDC. I don't want to mention names. You mentioned Boche. I don't want to mention names because when you mention names, it's like you are projecting.
You have a favorite?
Well, I mean, for me, I will want the flag bearer to reflect deeply and pick somebody who will help the party to win. I don't want to go public on any particular.
But you have a name in mind?
Yeah, I have a name in mind. Okay. If you ask me, I mean.
I'm asking you. Tell me.
I mean,
who is that person?
I said I don't want to go public on that.
I said if I ask you. Of course, I will ask you.
If you ask me because whether I have a name in mind, yes, I have a name in mind.
But okay.
Because it will be dishonest.
You want to share the name?
It will be dishonest for me to say I don't have a name in mind. Okay.
Tell us who the person is.
No, it will be dishonest on my part to say I don't have a name in mind. But I don't want to go public on
who the person is.
Who the person is.
Okay.
But I believe that, you know, our chances will be enhanced if we get the right person.
Okay.
And of course, that's the interview with Mahama Ayariga, telling us about the qualities of a running mate to John Mahama. And of course, going forward, we'll be hearing more of this. This is your election headquarters. Benedict is here with sports. Hi.
Hi, could you? Hope you're good.
I'm fine. Why is everyone doing this?
Why?
You want to take the Ernest away from you.
Well, now the Ghana Football Association and the Golf Association have presented proposals to government on a potential easing approach which could still protect the population so they can restart their respective sports. Information Minister Kujo Oponkoma mentioned this at today's press conference.
The sports community, in particular football and golf, have also submitted proposals on potential easing approach which could still protect the population. Now, I crave your indulgence to please pay particular attention to that. The government is grateful to all these groups and those who will be engaged in the coming days for their cooperation so far. But note that the fact that you are being engaged does not mean the proposals that have come from you have been accepted or the restrictions have been amended or lifted currently. The restrictions remain in full force and offenders will be arrested and prosecuted. The engagement is only a post-restriction scenario and should be clearly understood such.
So that's Information Minister Kujo Opon Nkrumah there. Now, the government is opening the door for the return of professional football in England. That will be in June, that's next month. Now, the Premier League met on Monday to discuss project restart and hopes for a return to action on June 12 with matches played behind closed doors. And talk of, leagues returning. We all know that the German Bundesliga will resume tomorrow with some interesting games, and we'll tell you about that when you join us tomorrow on the Joy Sports Center. But there is a 99% chance the Italian government will allow Serie A to resume on June 13. That's according to the head of the country's Olympic Committee. Now, the clubs are back in training, and the league approved 13 June for resumption of, if permitted by government, and Serie A was actually suspended on March 9, which with most teams having 12 games to play. So we'll see how that will also go. But it looks like, all of them are making efforts to bring the game back. Germany is starting tomorrow. English Premier League also looking at when to start, and Italy also talking about somewhere in June.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Benedict. Now, President Akufo-Addo is scheduled to be at the Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital tomorrow to cut sort for work to commence on the abandoned 47-year-old maternity block at the hospital. The almost 1,000-bed maternity and child health block started in 1974 was to help deal with the serious congestion on the existing facility. Now, the blatant neglect of the project attracted public outcry after Joy News' special assignment documentary Next to Die, produced by Seth Kwame Boateng. Now, the documentary highlighted how scores of babies and mothers were dying at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital due to congestion. In the following report, Seth Kwame Boateng takes us on a journey on how it all began.
Lives were being lost on a daily basis as a result of congestion here at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital, Ghana's second biggest teaching hospital.
Our mortality rate are around 20%, which means that 6 of the babies who come in will end up dying. So that's what maybe on a bad day we can lose 6-7 babies. We've had days when we've lost as many as 10 in a day.
These heart-wrenching statistics from Dr. Jikua Planjuru, head of the hospital's mother and baby unit, were not the only worrying fact about the facility. Expectant mothers also had their share, according to the former head of the gynecology unit of the hospital, Professor Bafu Opoku.
In 2012, we had 152 deaths.
Mothers.
2013, 126. 2014, 108. 2015, 102. And last year was 91.
All these were as a result of congestion. Congestion that made women in labor join queues and each wait her turn to give birth.
Some of them will deliver in the corridors. And it's not the best because we have to be in a particular position to ensure effective, safe delivery. So assuming the woman is standing and the baby just drops onto the ground, apart from the baby sustaining injuries, the mother will also sustain what we call genital tract injuries.
This same congestion meant doctors and nurses at the mother and baby unit had to put up to 4 babies in one cot or incubator.
Each of these babies is carrying his own set of bacteria, and then they're sharing. They are passing them on to one another.
How dangerous is that?
Your baby may come in with, your baby may come in with one infection, and then just as he's getting well and he's about to go, he takes another one from his housemate, and sometimes maybe, as I said, babies can die of infections.
A few meters away from where these avoidable deaths were being recorded was the perceived panacea to the congestion, an almost 1,000-bed maternity and child health unit started in 1974 but had been abandoned. This didn't sound right.
We need not play politics with our health, and in particular this building, because all the governments have come and gone. None has been able to just finish this to take care of the people who go and queue to vote for them.
That said, Kwame Boateng's report on the journey so far, how it all began. Next to Die project. Tomorrow, President Akufo-Addo is scheduled to be at the Komfanochi Teaching Hospital to cut salt for work to commence on that abandoned 47 years. Yes. It's been abandoned for 47 years, old maternity block at the hospital.
Good to know. It's now time for Flip Side. So the health minister has been speaking very passionately these days when he mounts the podium at the information ministry. Last week you heard him, right?
On the gossip.
Yeah, he said don't come out of your room and do kokonsa. Today he was also very passionate, so we put together a few of the things he's been saying. Very good advice, but very interesting. Listen.
You see, God wants us not to do certain things. When you have this mask, you can't drink. Can you?
There is no fear. That is why we've been drinking all the year.
So God wants to tell us that don't go and sit somewhere in the middle of the street and drink beer and drink alcohol. So if you have the mask, then God will be comfortable with you because you are not going to drink.